Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Adi. I'm a product manager at Starkware, and I'm very delighted to have this conversation today with Ross. Hey Ross.
Hey Eddie, how's it going?
Good, great. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. I'm struggling for Wi-Fi a bit here, so if you can't hear me at all, let me know and I'll switch over to 5G.
Sure, I'll let you know. Let's start with please introduce yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. My name's Ross. I'm one of the co-founders of Rhino, formerly known as Diversify. We were the first partner to launch with Starkware in 2020, although we met much earlier. We were the first platform to launch StarkX, one of the first instances of StarkX, and one of the first roll-ups on Ethereum. And we've come a long way since then, and I'm really looking forward to diving into some of the stuff that we've been building since then.
Yeah, this has been a long journey together, and I'm also looking forward to hear more about the development and changes over the years.
You
So
you blink and
maybe,
it's gone. I can't believe it. I was just thinking about it now. 2019 seems like so long ago. I can't believe what we've been through since then. Wow, yeah, 2019. Awesome.
yes, it's unbelievable actually. So do you want to, maybe we can start there. Like, was this long journey from the beginning? What are the changes, approaches, and where do you see yourself today as
Yeah,
Rhinofy?
absolutely. Yeah, just thinking back to it. So back then in 2019, we were looking at scaling technology for Ethereum. We'd raised some money and we were doing lots of research. And at the time, we were very interested in something which is a kind of akin to state channels and plasma. We built this scaling solution for what was then going to be our decentralized exchange. We wanted to build like a decentralized Binance on chain and then realized that quite quickly the design limitations that we were hitting into, and everyone was very familiar with all this stuff around the Lightning Network. And then we were researching and came across Starkware. We already had a really good reputation in the industry with Starks, and met up with Uri and Ellie, and the rest is history. And yeah, we've been working ever since to not only launch StarkX, which is what we launched the original vision of Diversify on, which was a order book decentralized trading platform. But we've also come all the way right up to the current history now, current point now, with Rhinofy, which still has our StarkX implementation, but we've also expanded to other chains, including StarkNet as well, with some other products. Is that a fair history? Is that a fair history
Yeah.
without boring everyone?
Um, maybe you can take us even more deeper for this pivotal time, this change, also diversify to Rhinofy, and also going into cross-chain bridging.
Yep, great question. So when we launched on StarkX, we were the only instance of StarkX, and this was just before DeFi summer really kicked off. Gas prices on chain went crazy high. There were 2,000 Gwei. We were spending $2,000 a day on state updates and batches, putting them on chain. And that was even when we were reducing the state updates to, I think we started out at every 15 minutes, and we were reducing it right down to like one every 12 hours. And then we were kind of looking at this and thinking, well, surely, this is great. We've built this order book exchange, and once people are on the layer two, it's fantastic. StarkX is gasless. We've got the Validium implementation, which means that data is held off chain via a committee, which is great because it offers what we call casual privacy. You can do very fast throughput, gasless, and you get all the benefits and security of Ethereum with this committee as well. So that's where we were like, everyone needs to come on to rollups. Rollups are the future, but getting on there from Ethereum is really expensive. So we developed what we stumbled upon, really, the technology and our sort of our bridging product, purely as a way of allowing people to onboard to diversify to Rhinofy from Polygon. Polygon was our first network where we allowed bridging from, and that allowed people to deposit funds onto Rhinofy to be able to use all of the advantages of StarkX and the product that we built, but from Polygon for a couple of dollars instead of upwards of $50 it was costing some people to deposit and withdraw. So that was where we stumbled across this. We weren't even calling it a bridge feature then; it was just an onboarding tool for us. And it was only really last year where we realized that actually this was a really, really useful tool, because even in the middle of the bear market, gas prices were high, and people wanted to move around between all the different solutions that were popping up, different layer twos, optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, side chains, and there was no real easy way for the users to do this in a quick and cheap way. And so that has led us to what we're kind of calling a bit of a pivot, but it's really just fleshing out our vision for Rhinify being a DeFi aggregator, which is this bridging feature which we now have, which allows you to bridge from Rhinify to 11 other chains in between those as well. And we launched 2 weeks ago on Starknet as well. So very, very happy about that. So
Yes,
users
very
can now
exciting.
bridge. But I'll stop there and maybe we can dive into a few more bits there.
So maybe you can give us a broader picture, a general picture about cross-chain bridging, in general, how it works, or different strategies to do so, and then where you position yourself within this scope or
Yeah,
landscape.
great question. And you have to forgive me because I'm not the most technical of persons, despite writing blog posts on this stuff. The design space for bridging is absolutely huge. And you can split it on different dimensions, including security and liquidity is the two ways that I like to think about it. So on the security front, you've got everything ranging from like a centralized bridge, so something like say Binance, where you can deposit and then you can withdraw from that centralized exchange to another bridge. You've then got a step up, which is smart contracts secured by multi-sigs, and going all the way through to decentralized protocols controlled by validators and verifiers, and then ZK proofs running all of this and checking all of this with attestations. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in between on the security side. And then on the liquidity side of things, you've got the lock bridges or lockup bridges. So the native chains, the native layer two, the layer twos, you've got these native bridges where you send your funds to a smart contract, and then there's a representation of those on the layer two. So very big bridges, control a lot of funds. And then you've got things like mint and burn bridges. So for example, USDC you can send your funds on one layer two to Circle, and they will burn them, and then they will mint them on another chain for you. So that's another side of things. And then you've also got bridges like Rhinify, which is where we fit into this on the liquidity front, which is we're a liquidity bridge, we call it, or a user bridge. So we rely on the funds that are already minted on these layer twos, on these networks or side chains, and we essentially front the funds. So users send us the funds on one layer two, and then we give you the funds back on another layer two, using funds that are already on that layer two, and then we do all of the bridging in between in the background to make that happen.
Okay, so you have a liquidity pool on each chain that you interact with, but the settlement itself is done through this let's call this central hub that Rhinify is.
Yeah, exactly. There's different ways that we do the bridging. So maybe I can delve a little bit more into that. So you're absolutely right. We've got liquidity on different bridges, so, on different chains. So we hold a pot of funds in a smart contract. So like, say for example, Ethereum on Starknet, Ethereum on Arbitrum. You send your funds to the smart contract, and then we give it on the other chain. But we've also got this cool bit in the middle sometimes, which is StarkX. So when users come to Rhinify and they sign in for the first time using their MetaMask or their Ledger, they create an account on StarkX, and that happens there right in front of them the first time they use Rhinify. So that's always there for them if they need it, and that's got a couple of really cool advantages, which I don't think is really talked about enough in terms of the way that the bridge works. But for example, you can use that as a middle layer to be able to bridge onto Rhinify before you bridge anywhere else. So, for example, you can bridge onto Rhinify to be able to use all of the cool stuff on Rhinify, like order book trading, vault aggregation from different chains. You can send funds to other Rhinify users, all that good stuff, all gas free. You can also deposit your funds from all these different chains onto Rhinify, and then withdraw to another chain in one go. So having this middle layer is really, really cool. But say you don't care about any of that, and actually you just want to get your funds from
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Arbitrum to Starknet. So you initiate the bridge transaction and it goes through. That's great. It happens in a few seconds and your funds end up on Starknet. It doesn't really have much to do with StarkX in the middle, but it does have this really cool advantage, which is if something was to go wrong. So if there's maybe like a block reorg on one of the chains, or maybe a gas spike, or something goes wrong, the way that we've developed our technology is for all these edge cases or behavior where it might need something checking or something, instead of your funds just being kind of in the smart contract and don't really know where they are, we push it to your StarkX account. So you then got them in your Rhinify account, and then you can then do what you want with them. And we think that's really, really cool. It's not behavior that people are used to with bridges, but I think it's really cool because it's just got all these sort of extra safety features built in, and gives you a lot of flexibility. Does that make sense?
Yes. I don't know, maybe for the listeners, do you want to go like a step-by-step flow? Let's say I bridge from Arbitrum to Starknet. So if you can reveal what's going in the background, step by step.
Yeah, so if you bridge from Arbitrum to Starknet, you would send your funds to the Rhinify smart contract on Arbitrum, and then we would then pick up that event, and then we would give you the funds back on Starknet. And if something was to go wrong in the middle, and for whatever reason that wasn't to happen, we would then, instead of pushing your funds to Starknet, we would push them to StarkX in the middle instead. So your funds would end up in your Rhinify account, and you could do whatever you wanted with them then, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Cool. And in this design, what are the trust assumptions that we have on Rhinify?
Yeah, and as I was saying, it's a big design space, so I think there's definitely lots of room for improvement. Rhinify is very much focused on the user bridging end of the spectrum, so we're not trying to be a protocol. We're not trying to secure billions of dollars of bridge volume for for B2B for other protocols, for example. What we're trying to do is to facilitate users being bridging funds as quickly as possible from chain A to chain B. So our transactions take usually under 30 seconds, maybe a bit more depending on what chain, but usually under 30 seconds. So that is a big bonus point there, because it means that the funds are only kind of in control of Rhinify as a project or as a protocol for less than 30 seconds. So that's one bonus point. So quite quickly, it would be quite obvious if something went wrong. These funds aren't locked up for 7 days, for example, in any sort of challenge periods or anything like that. The other cool thing is Rhinify doesn't have like third-party liquidity in its smart contracts on these different chains. So we don't offer liquidity mining for customers to deposit funds into the liquidity pools. It's all controlled by Rhino itself. So the funds that are in the smart contracts on each of these chains, that's Rhinify's funds as a project, which means that if anything was to go really, really wrong, then it's Rhino that would lose the funds, not customers, which I think is really cool as well. And we've been operating now for since 2019. Touch wood, no hacks so far, no hacks in the future. And we're just coming up to 920,000 customers, probably hit 1 million customers in the next week or two, and no one's lost any funds. So yeah, very, very proud of that.
Yeah,
and hopefully that's something that we can continue in the future.
absolutely. So in the middle, like between the transaction, having liquidity on one chain and then providing liquidity on the other chain, we actually need to trust Rhinify that they will complete. So it's not atomic on chain, but the trust is in this, like between providing liquidity on one chain and providing it on the other chain.
Yeah, exactly. So for that sort of 30 seconds, you're trusting Rhinify with the funds, unless there's an edge case that happens where your funds get deposited, well, they don't make it to the other chain, they get deposited to StarkX, for example, in which case you're not trusting RhinoFi as an entity. You're trusting StarkX, but decentralized and a full roll up. So
Cool.
there's no danger there, which I think is really cool because often people bridge to RhinoFi and then forget and then come back a week later and their funds are in their RhinoFi account on StarkX.
And regarding prices, what are the advantages that you offer regarding to other bridges?
Yeah, we're trying to be as cheap as possible, and that is the goal. We want it to be as frictionless, as cheap, as easy as possible. So we really try and keep costs low. Obviously, depending on the gas on the destination chains, which is very linked to layer one, the fees change. But for example, I think right now we're charging something like 60 cents on a transaction to get to Starknet, and then for larger volume transfers, there's a small percentage fee, like 0.04 to 0.06% or something. And then for very big transactions, there's a higher fee because we actively want to discourage whales using liquidity at the expense of everyday users. So us, the audience that we really want to serve is anyone who's got anything from a few dollars up to maybe $100,000 or something like that.
Great. And what makes you offer these low fees in comparison to other competitors you have?
Yeah, so we don't have to pay for expensive liquidity mining for the liquidity in the pools, which is one advantage. Obviously, it means that we don't serve really, really large volume transactions, which is what the protocol bridges are more set up to do. So the likes of, say, for example, Stargate has millions and millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in liquidity pools, but that liquidity is relatively expensive because they're paying the LPs with token emissions.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that. We do have a token, but there's no liquidity mining going on there, which is great. We just use our own company funds, company collateral, project collateral. So we don't need to pay for any LPs. We operate at scale, economies of scale, which is how we're able to bring the transactions lower. And we put a lot of work into the smart contracts themselves that exist on each individual chain to make sure that they're operating very, very efficiently. So it was 2 months ago, I think, where we managed to cut the gas fee associated with the contracts down by 30%, and also simplified them. So that's really, really cool there. Good work from the team there.
Yeah, that's really cool. And let's hop on to Starknet. So how is the integration with Starknet? How has Cairo, our language, like Starknet language, has eased the integration process? If you can share more about it.
Yeah, definitely. So we've been building on Starkware's products for a long time, right? So I feel like it's almost unfair because we've been following for a long time. We didn't come into this fresh. We had an MVP of the Rhino bridge on Starknet a while ago, maybe 6 months ago, but we're waiting for the latest release of Cairo to come through before deploying it. And then we wrote our contracts in the latest version of Cairo and deployed. And the feedback from the team was really good. So anyone who is used to programming in Rust, for example, should find like significant familiarity in Cairo. I'm not a developer, so I can't go into any more details than that. But I just know that it has a lot of power, a lot of flexibility, and anyone who's been coding in Rust should find it very familiar. I don't know if you get the same feedback from people when you're speaking to developers.
Cool. It's really great to hear about it. And Ross, do you want to use this opportunity to tell more about RhinoFi, about your bridging solution?
Yeah, definitely. So the goal of RhinoFi is to be a DeFi aggregator. That's our mission, right? So if you come to RhinoFi now, you don't just have a bridge, you have lots of other products as well, which aim to give you access to the best of DeFi, whether that's investing in the best beefy strategies or beefy finance strategies on one chain, swapping tokens on different chains, being able to order book trade if that's your thing. You can do that with aggregated liquidity. So we're really building this hub, one-stop shop for DeFi, which once you're on RhinoFi, you can do all the stuff that you'd like to do, but gas-free because the core is StarkX. So we're really, really happy with the way that's going, and yeah, very excited to see that grow. Right now, we're very much focused on the bridging aspect of it, not only as a way of enabling people to onboard onto RhinoFi or StarkX at its core, but also being able to bridge between different layer twos, including StarkNet. We really hope to be able to support Kakarot as well when that launches, hopefully next year. So being able to give people the freedom to be able to explore DeFi. So that's something that we're really, really excited about. And it's great to see customers responding to this. And we just had a rebrand a couple of weeks ago, and the response to that's been brilliant as well. The whole platform's much faster than it was a year ago. Because of the scale, it's much lower cost in terms of the bridging. So yeah, we're really excited to see customers continue to use this and this to grow over the next couple of years.
Amazing. So it's a great opportunity to invite people to check out not only the bridging functionalities and the low fees and the fast functionalities, but also all other things that RhinoFi can offer in the DeFi space.
Exactly. We're really, really excited, for example, for, I don't know whether I just get this feeling because been hanging out a lot with a lot of the really cool teams that exist on StarkNet, the likes of StarkNet ID, Nostra, Avenue, all these guys. But it really feels like StarkNet's really gaining momentum, especially recently.
Yes.
So in terms of next steps and what Rhino products would look like on StarkNet, we would really like to be able to integrate with any vault strategies that offer users yield, like long-term yield, sustainable long-term yield. That's something that we find customers really value, being able just to one-click invest in vaults without having to go and get LP tokens and stake and restake and then compound, all of that stuff. We can wrap all that up in a nice UI for them right on RhinoFi. So once we start seeing these strategies and vaults grow on StarkNet, I think that would be a really good next step for Rhino.
Yeah, it's interesting, like where it will evolve to.
What's your view on the StarkNet ecosystem and the growth at the moment? What are you most excited about?
Well, it's first of all seeing it growing, in a more decentralized way, like having the ecosystem grow, having more apps, more builders joining in, that people are really engaged and care for StarkNet. I think this is very moving for all of us here in Starkware. And as the protocol itself matures, I believe we'll see more functionalities on it, drawing more audiences. So I think the future ahead of us is super exciting. I'm really moved that people, when someone feels that something is, he's part of something, they are part of something. This is I think the basic thing to succeed.
Definitely.
Alongside with great technology.
But I think that's really
which is given here.
You really nailed it there, because people often ask me, why are you so excited about StarkNet? And you kind of really do have to experience it to get a feel for it. But the way I always boil it down is, I think the community on StarkNet is really good, and I don't just mean that in the fluffy sense, but from the events and hanging out with the projects, I think because there's a bit more of a hurdle in terms of learning a new language and getting to grips with all of that, it really does breed like a stronger community that's in it for the long term, at the same time as removing some of the bad actors that don't want to spend the effort having to do all of that. So I think that's amazing on the community side of things. Everyone really does support each other, and it's a very small group of people that really do support each other really well at the core, and do so much for the rest of the wider community. And then on the technology front, obviously the technology and the flexibility and the power that Cairo gives you, and the general computation layer of StarkNet, I think we're only just touching the surface on. So it's really exciting to see DeFi growing, but also, you know, gaming and all the other stuff that I think we'll be able to grow all the different verticals over the coming years.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree. And as you said, we're just touching the surface. Like maybe we can have another conversation in 10 years and we'll see where we're at.
10 years in this market is about 60 years in the real world, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like dog years and people's years.
Exactly.
Multiplied, yes. Okay, Ross, this has been a real pleasure to talk to you. And I thank you also, all the listeners that joined us today. Yeah, if someone has any questions, you're welcome to jump in.
That was really good. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me natter on about StarkX and StarkNet. Really appreciate it. It's not often I get a chance to talk to such a knowledgeable audience who knows exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, very, very happy to be able to waffle away.
Great, it was a real pleasure.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, Ross.